All right, organic cycle, another one for drawing. I'm excited for this one because this one is going to be a lot of fun. So the theme of this week's cycle is going to be werewolves, and that in and of itself is already a lot of fun. The reason I picked this, and I haven't really yet released something like this, is because werewolves it gives you that humanoid creature design. And the thing about that is we need to combine our knowledge of figures with our knowledge of organic, complex shapes, in order to keep a little bit of that believability and make our designs work. So that's why we definitely needed a couple of figure cycles for a lot of you loyal students, that you're familiar with how you can mannequinize figures, rotate them, in order to, or before you start manipulating them and really designing them in a certain fashion to mimic a little bit more of a creature design that is essentially breaking the rules of anatomy and mannequinization. Okay, but now we're here, now we're doing it. And before we get into the assignments, again, I want to share a very inspirational resource. I have shared this before. It's the book Mythical Beasts. Absolutely love this book. Now, this book isn't necessarily only about werewolves. Again, get that microphone out of the way. It's not necessarily only about werewolves, but the thing I really love about this book and what they do so successfully is they talk you through their design process. And now let me see if I can quickly find the werewolf. All right, so there is a werewolf in here. And like any creature that is designed and displayed in this book, the thing I love about it is that they start with field notes about the animals that they're going to study. And again, like you can see here, we are combining canines with humans, right? And that's already a very tricky subject. And then they go about, certain feature that are going to be highlighted when you create this creature. And they do that for every creature, which is why I like this book. And then they go through the design process, which I'm basically going to have you go through as well. Design process of coming up with sketches, more exploration, a little bit more detail, and then creating your final design. And they do that for a lot of creatures. Again, this is a little bit more cartoony, but you can definitely go a more realistic route as well. But as you can see, even for these designs, it's the same kind of thinking. Like when we want to create like a dingo neck, like what are the field notes, what creatures are we combining, how can we study their features, and how can we then add prominent features and then go through our design process. Okay, so moving on into the assignments of this cycle. For part one, what I want you to do is I want you to again start with a warm-up cycle, which is cycle 5 of the warm-ups. Just go through it. Doesn't take longer than 20 minutes, or it shouldn't, right? That it shouldn't be a full assignment. Those cycles is just to get you warmed up, to get you into flow of things, and to increase your confidence when you start going with these assignments. Because sometimes the problem with not doing a warm-up is that you jump into the assignments with a certain expectation, and because you haven't warmed up, you kind of hit that wall and you get a little bit discouraged. And just like exercising, having a good warm-up is really essential. Then you're going to pick 3 real-life canines from the reference library to base your wolf on, your werewolf. Now, this is up to you. You don't have to pick the generic one. You can get a little bit more creative with the canines that you pick, but the canines that you pick, you're going to base your werewolf on. You're going to study each reference or animal, again, by simplifying it into manipulated simple forms. At this point, I feel like I don't have to explain the reason why we're doing this, and I hope it's clear for every one of you when I say study. It's really, you shouldn't be copying what you see. You should be really trying to understand the simple forms of the reference that you're seeing. And then you're going to rotate that animal in a different angle, at least once. Okay. Then you're going to draw your mannequin from last figure cycle. If you remember that, the mannequin, the body types, right? You're going to draw that mannequin again in the same pose as the canine reference. Now, the reason that we're doing this is because I want you to already get creative with posing your characters, because a werewolf is essentially more humanoid than it is bestial. Now, we can argue that, but from what you usually see from default werewolf illustrations and designs is that they have very human-like behavior. And now what I want you to learn to do is using a humanesque mannequin and pose it in a creature manner or in a canine manner. Because essentially what you're going to do at a later stage is you're going to combine human behavior with animal behavior. All right. So, all right. Thank you all for watching. If you've enjoyed this clip and you want to get access to part 2 and part 3 of these assignments, make sure you head over to Art-Wod.com, where we have a lot more of this content, along with classrooms to accompany each of these assignment cycles, tutorials, a complete beginner's course for you to enjoy and get you up and running with the program. We have an amazing community on Discord where I'm very active. We have some great support teachers. So if you want to get access to all of that, make sure you visit Art-Wod.com and I will see you there.